Hi everyone, this is a new tutorial on neighboring 6/4s and passing 6/4s. You should have looked already at the tutorial on cadential 6/4s. So neighboring 6/4s are, and the passing 6/4s are embellishing versions of 6/4s as opposed to the more structural cadential 6/4. These, cadential 6/4 comes on a strong beat, usually at a cadence, but even when it's not at a cadence, it's still on an accented beat. Neighboring 6/4s and passing 6/4s tend to occur on weak beats. That's one very important difference. So we see these, some melody here. Mi, fa, mi, re, do. Similar to the one in your assignment. It's up here, it's in C major. Mi, fa, mi, re, do. So the 6/4 here, the mi, fa, mi, really is just an upper neighbor as part of an expansion of 1. I'm not even going to bother to go through and write the bass line. This is just you can have a neighboring 6/4 is just an upper neighbor to the stable 5/3 position. Any stable tonic or dominant or any stable triad in 5/3 position can be embellished with a neighboring 6/4. And the Arabic numerals tell you all you need to know about the voice leading. 5, 6, 5, 3, 4, 3. So mi, fa, mi over a tonic is 3, 4, 3. 5, 6, 5 is going to be a sol, la, sol. Now, and the one chord you should, as typical, you should double the root. And you should just keep it doubled. The bass is stationary. The neighboring 6/4 chord has a stationary bass. And you should double that bass because it's stable. It's stable. So I'll leave that for your own devices. I want to pay much more attention to the passing 6/4 with where the bass is passing. The bass is not stable. It's a much more complicated process and a much more involved process. So let's look closely. So this is a mi, fa, mi, re, re, do. It's the same basic melody, except I've shifted it so that the mi is a pickup, and that makes the fa on the strong beat. That fa is no longer an upper neighbor, part of a neighboring 6/4. Now it becomes a more stable part of an expansion of a larger function. And what is that function? So mi, fa, mi, re, re, do. So we have re, re, do. Should be, well, if we start the pickup here, it's the 1 chord. So let's just go straight with the 1. There. I'm going to turn the sound off. So, do. And then the ending here, re, re, do, should have a conventional cadence. So, sol, do, and we should lead to that sol. We're going to be really conventional about it. Let's do a low sol. We should lead to it with a dominant prep chord. So with re, fa, and the bass supports, with re in the soprano and fa in the bass, the dominant prep chord, it's a 2/6. 2/6 chord. So re, re, do, fa, sol, do should be familiar to you. Now, this passing 6/4, what's it passing from and to? Well, a passing chord or embellishing chord like this is by definition moves between two stable chords that are expanding a single harmony. So what would that harmony be? Mi, fa, mi, re, re, do. Well, maybe the better question is what function does it expand? If I start on the upbeat here with a tonic function and I'm ending with a dominant prep to a dominant to a tonic function, what's passing, one of these stable chords and the passing 6/4 is leading to a dominant prep chord. And it should begin with a version of the dominant prep chord. So mi, fa, mi, re. That means I should move to a dominant prep chord on the downbeat. So if I'm starting with the upbeat with do and I'm going to fa, the third beat, I can break that up with motion down to La. Do, La. Now that would imply then a 4/6 chord. We've written this chord before. Do, La, Fa, Sol, Do. It's a pretty typical bass line. I'll talk about that more next week. So the passing 6/4 does exactly what you would imagine it. It passes between La and Fa. Do, La, Sol, Fa, Sol, Do, like that. Now, so that's your passing 6/4. Not a stable bass, but a moving bass. And it functions to expand dominant prep. Now, it's not the same chord. The 4 is moving to the 6, but as we know, the 4 and the 6 both have a dominant prep function. So they're very similar. There's only one note that's different. So what should the voice leading in the middle look like? Well, let's do an open voice. Double the root. So when we move to the 4 chord, 4/6 chord, simplest is to hold the common tone. So I have Do, Do, Sol, and Mi. Mi moves up to Fa, upper neighbor. Do is held steady. Lost my note. That's good. Let's make all these bass notes. Second voice. Now, what should the alto do? Well, in a first inversion triad, it's always a nice idea to double the soprano, or at least it's often sensible, and in this case, I think it's very sensible. Frankly, you can still go sol to La and double the La, but we're going to see when we move to the passing 6/4 that it is nice to double the soprano. Let's look and see what's going on into the 6/4 chord. The 6/4 chords, all of them, neighboring 6/4, the cadential 6/4, the passing 6/4, should double the bass. The bass. So what you have in the bass is La, Sol, Fa, Sol, La, which you can do in this alto voice or in any upper voice. Do like a voice exchange, a Fa, Sol to La. So you move in an opposite direction. So it's good to, so with the voice exchange between these two, then you assure yourself of no parallels. That's why it's a good idea to double the soprano. Note also, by the way, that the soprano and the bass are moving in parallel motion to one another. We've seen a lot of parallel 10th motion. In this case, it's not parallel 10ths, though. Whoops. It's parallel 6ths. So we have 6, 6, 6. Some students are disturbed by this progression for this reason, but there's no reason to fear it. And of course you can see that each of these chords has a 6th in it. The first inversion 4 chord, first inversion 2 chord, and then of course the passing 6/4. So what's left to do with this Do here? Well, that Do, the 4th above the bass, stays steady. You just hold it. Now, and then what do you do in the 2/6 chord? Well, you can do a variety of things. You can double, well, what can you double? You can double a variety. You have to be careful about what you double them. If you double the soprano and you move up Do to Re, you may notice parallel 5ths between the bass, between the tenor and the alto. So in this voicing, don't do this open voicing like this. This is a bad idea. Then remember the 2/6 chord, you can double anything you want in order to get better voice leading. So go down and double the La. That's the best approach here. Now, once you do that, then you set yourself for a very smooth progression to the 5 chord. Doubling La, by the way, you can so basically you can go La to Sol. You can also go La to T. One of these, well, if you're doubling La, one goes to Sol, the other one goes to T. If it's an octave between them, then you're going to need to move up the T and the tenor and down to Sol and the alto in order to avoid the spacing problems. Now, if this were a closed voicing, or the tenor, let's go back to this Do. The Do to Re would work if it were in the alto voice and the tenor was Sol to La. Then it would be parallel fourths, and then you could simply double Re. So again, not a problem. To be honest with you, in this 2/6 chord, you can double whatever makes for the smoothest voice leading. Of course, once you set yourself up for the 5, I think you all will be able to easily finish the progression. Okay, that's it for the neighboring 6/4s and the passing 6/4s. Good luck on your homework.